Okay, this is Loves Games. I am doing a really short video here just to give a brief overview of my Mausritter setup on Miro. I got a request on the 3D6 Down the Line Discord to give a little bit more information about how I run Mausritter on Miro. So I'm going to go over that fairly quickly here. So we're going to start off. You can see here I'm in Miro. And over here to the left is my big old school essentials setup. I could certainly talk about that sometime. But I recently switched this group to Mausritter. And I kind of just put a big line on the board and created a new area for Mausritter. So I think the biggest thing, like obstacle or friction point in running Mausritter on Miro, and I'm going to stop zooming in and out because that might make somebody seasick, is dealing with the item cards. You've got this character sheet that has slots for little chits, little cardboard chits when you're playing in person at the table. And how do you replicate that in Miro? So what I did is it does take a little bit of setup, and I'm certainly open to better ways to do this, but this is how I approached it. So what I did is took an image of the character sheet from the PDF version of the book, but you can also find other character sheets online free if you want. And so first of all, you've just got an image of the character sheet, right? And I import that into Miro, and there it is. But naturally, you want to be able to write on it and put stuff on it. So I'm going to show one of my players sheets here because these have been tweaked a little bit more. And what you can see is if I click on this character sheet, what you're going to see is there's a lot more stuff selected. I'm going to go to the Pixie Crunch instead. My players are awesome, and one of them named his character Pixie Crunch, which I believe is the name of an apple variety, and he thought that was a cute name, so here we are. Um, so if I click on the sheet, you'll see that instead of being one object, this is actually 21 objects that are all grouped. And so all these text boxes or fields, on the sheet, so you've got the sheet as a base, and then I created or added a text box and placed it for the name. So, a person can put in their name, background, all of these places where you would write something. These are text boxes. And then the text boxes are all grouped so that if you move the sheet, they move together. So let me show you how I did that. If I come over here to the blank sheet, I'll just click over here on text, and then I'll just kind of like put a box right there just to start. So we're going to say this character is, Pixie Crunch Junior, right? And then I'm just going to move that box so that it sits right there. It's a little finicky, right? But now if I select the whole, if I use the kind of area select to select them all and click here where it says group, now I can move the sheet and the text box stays there. Now when they're grouped, in order to change that text, right, you just have to double click into it, and then you can change it to, Pixie Crunch the third. And so you can do that same thing with all of these boxes. And that's how it's set up over here if we look at the actual Pixie Crunch sheet. So I've got a box for max and current strength, hit points, all that stuff. And my players who love messing around in Miro, they do all kinds of funny stuff in Miro. So they wanted to put their portraits on the sheet, which is easy. It's just an image, right? So bring the image in, put it there, again, group it all together. So that all works really well. Sometimes you get weird effects. You can see down here, if we look at the XP, you can see that this box is really long. So sometimes you may have to reset that. I'm not sure if it's started that way and I just never shrunk it, or if it, for some reason, reformatted and got big again. I don't know. Because you can see over here on the Roscoe sheet, a lot of her text boxes are weird sizes. So you can get a little bit of that weird kind of stuff, but it's not too bad. and I find it pretty easy to deal with. So coming back to Pixie Crunch 2, again, you've got this group sheet. So you can imagine, or you know what I might do is actually I'll just get rid of Pixie Crunch 2, and what I'll do is make a copy of the original Pixie Crunch. So I'm just Control C, Control V, and here's an entirely recreated sheet for this character. You move it around, you can see things move. The player has put little notes and stuff in here. So so one thing that can be a little bit annoying is that you can't just create an empty text box in Miro. So for instance, like I wanted them to have a space for their banked items and pips, but they didn't have any banked items and pips. You can't just put a blank text box because it won't register as a thing. So I had to do is put a text box in here and then just put in like bullet points, item one, item two, item three, item four, so that the text box would persist even if there was nothing in it. That's not a huge deal, but it's something to bear in mind. So getting on to inventory control, which I think might be the bigger question for people trying to implement Miro for Mausritter. Inventory control is not too bad either. So if I come over here, this is sort of a little admin area. This is where I do timekeeping for the gamer, just to remind my players of how the time works. But if I scroll down here, I've got some assets, right? And so I've got templates. This is a template for the character sheet, although I note that it doesn't have any of the. It's got a couple of the boxes, so that's good. Actually, it does have the boxes. Oh, when I copied it, it's not grouped, I think. So, whoops. Uh, Here you're seeing me. I'm sending this black frame around this to the back so that it's not like, yeah. All right. So this frame is kind of an pain in the ass. So I'm actually just going to get rid of that frame. There. So now you can see that when I select this character sheet, all I'm selecting is the sheet, right? So this needs to be grouped like that, and now I can move the whole sheet. Okay, I got distracted again. Items. So I think somewhere on the official Mausritter page, there's a download that will give you um, some of the actual item chits from the physical game in digital format, and those are great. So I think some of those are here, like the bow and stuff. Like this stuff, I think is from the original or is from the official site. But it's also like not hard at all to make your own. And some of these I made the hard way in GIMP, which was a lot of work. But there's actually a great resource on um, Mausritter.com, which I've just navigated to, called the Item Card Studio. And so in here, you can very easily make your own item card. So recently I needed a rock salt. So if you come to mausritter.com/item-card-studio, you're going to get this page. And you can see the item is here, and it's very easy to do this. There's templates. So here I'm going to make an item for rock salt, and you can actually see that the name is there. You can set how many usage pips it has. I'll leave it at 3. It's going to default to white, but you can change the background color. So somewhere along the line, I had, it's not here now, but I had figured out the hex code for this like nice brown that I liked. But I'm just going to leave it as white for now. And then it is preloaded with some of the images from the actual official items in the game, but it's very easy to bring in your own custom items. So if I click instead of choosing one, if I click custom, then it's just going to give me a browse window here where I can look for a file. But of course, I need an image for that. And so for that, I go to a different site, which is gameicons.net, which has thousands and thousands of free kind of icon style images. I think it's mainly to support like video game design or development, but I think it works great for this too. So I'm in their little, I already in advance went to their little collection of minerals, and I'm going to pick this one that says ore because I do think it looks a little bit like rock salt. It looks enough like rock salt. So I click on that, and that puts the thing in this like little studio, and you can make changes to it. I had already preset. I think it retains your uses or retains like settings between uses. So this one's when I go to gameicons.net, it's already set to invert the colors. So instead of white on black, which you sort of see in this little preview, it's black on transparent, I think is what this is. And so I don't really need to make any additional changes to this, although I could. So then I'm just going to download this as a PNG. That's going to put it in my downloads folder. And it says OR1 now because you can see I already had an OR downloaded. But of course, in the image viewer in Windows, it's hard to see because it's black on nothing, but that's what it looks like. So that's in my downloads folder. So I come back to image yeah, item card studio on Mausritter.com. Go to custom, go to browse, pick OR1, click open, and look at that. That looks fantastic, I think. So you can save this to like a sheet, and then you can print a whole sheet of these if you're making item cards for physical games. But I just need it in a digital format, so I'm just going to save item image there. And you can see it saves it as rock salt there in my also in my downloads folder. Okay, so if I come back to Miro, I want to put that rock salt in the game. I will go to well, now you're seeing something for a different game. Uh, and I'm going to literally all I'm going to do is drag and drop the image from my downloads folder into Miro. It drops it in Miro. Now you can see it needs to be resized. That's very easy to do though. If I just line it up with one of the other item cards and start to scale it, you will see little indicators that pop up to allow you to match it to the size of something else. So there you can see kind of on the bottom of the image, it's got this little bar that's telling me it's the same width as another item. If I go like that, you can see now all of these items have these little bars that tells me that they're all the same width. And since I'm using the corner and it's a square, that tells me now that these items are the same size. And naturally, the way I choose like what size for them to be is based on the character sheet. So here you can see I'm zooming out, I'm dragging this item way over here and bringing it up here. And now Pixie Crunch the third has some rock salt. I'm just literally just dropping it on this sheet. And so, I mean, that's really it. So now if the player picks up this sheet and moves it, that rock salt's going to stay, right? So but I don't. You don't necessarily want to regroup the whole character sheet with the items on it because if I do that, if I hit group, yes, now I can move these items, but now it's hard to move just the rock salt. You have to like double click it and drag it, and it will still be grouped. So if I move the sheet, it'll move with it, right? So I generally don't create a group with the items on the sheet. I just leave the sheet itself as a group, meaning the image of the sheet and the text boxes and maybe the artwork. But since I ungrouped to get the rock salt detached from this group, I have to regroup the sheet into its own little group. So that's where it can be a little bit finicky, and that's where the setup can be a little bit annoying. And there's a little bit of a learning curve for the players, but it's not. I haven't found it to be too bad. So once the items are on there, if the player wants to move their sheet, they just got to make sure to kind of do a group like an area select, and then you can move the whole sheet because it's moving the sheet and the items that are also selected, but it's not combining those into a single object. But in practice, I don't think my players tend to move their character sheets around a lot because we're in the kind of virtual space. But we might move them, at the beginning of the session if we're in a particular place. So here is Oaks Grove. I kind of built out Oaks Grove, which is part of the Earldom of Eck, which is in the Mausritter book as the default kind of example hex crawl. And so my players are in Oaks Grove right now, and they wanted to have their sheets over here. So anyway, I think that's overall how I have facilitated running Mouser on Miro. There may be improvements, better ways to do it. I don't know. Um, and I think this video is kind of long, but whatever. Hopefully it's helpful. And yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot. And bye.